Welcome to STEM Talk with STEMencounters, the student-led 501c3 podcast solely based on material science and engineering, a passion of mine. I'm your host, CEO, and founder of STEMencounters, Saif Panjwani.
And I'm Shaz. I'm the CEO of STEMencounters.
And what we do, as you know, if you watch the first episode, we run a student-led nonprofit known as STEMencounters, dedicated to teaching and encouraging and expanding STEM and material science and engineering to everyone. Uh, if you want to visit us and learn more about us, go to STEMencounters.com. We have a lot of online courses and blog posts that we post new information about STEM and material science overall.
We also have Instagram, STEM Encounters on Instagram. And yeah, we're updating our Instagram daily, every few days, and we're posting new articles on there, posting new articles on our blog post,
Yep.
and just explaining what's going on in like recently about material science and just STEM overall.
Yeah. So this podcast is focused on material science and engineering, but there's a lot of cool stuff that we can go into it, and the cool things that Shaz and I go into it overall. We do interviews. We will be doing interviews and just learning about the field. So without further ado, let's get into the STEM. So the first thing we're talking about today is an article that I read called Microstructure by Design, or a publication in Microstructure by Design, an approach of grain refinement and isotropy improvement in multi-layer wire-based laser metal deposition. So Shaz and I are smiling because we know it's a big jargon handful of words. And some of that we were learning about and we tried to understand just for this podcast. So Shaz, if I explain to you and some of the viewers at home who are watching this, what grain refinement, the first really fancy word we heard, is kind of refining and uniforming particles on a specific solid or material. So say, for example, I have a piece of metal and it's not uniform. All the particles are kind of distributed. Some of it's rough, some of it's not. And you want to make it all uniform and nice. You would use grain refinement theory, which is just making it really nice and making it properly dense overall. And overall uniform. There's also a lot of modeling and novel experimentation that is done in grain refinement theory to make it nice and smooth. Some of that we'll be talking about today, called laser irradiance, but we'll get to that in a minute. So Shaz, the second thing that we heard in that was isotropy improvement, which is essentially just uniformity. A lot of this is just having uniformity in wires so that we can use it for things like electricians and engineers so that they can use it in their materials for structures and buildings and to overall improve their designs and concepts.
Yeah. Oh, so it's just all about like uniformity. So like let's say like someone wants to be an engineer, then all they need to know is like how to make everything uniform in order for it to be like solid structure and for it to have a lot of strength. Is that kind of what it's
Yeah,
like?
so it's kind of like that. Let me give you some how it kind of works. So grain refinement has been used to improve properties and distribution of properties, specifically using ultrasonic treatment and electromagnetic waves and forces to provide grain refinement overall. So, and isotropy also does a better distribution of properties. So what you kind of said that is all you need to know about for engineers to use this for future events and not events, but projects and future building projects. They don't necessarily just have isotropy and grain refinement, but they also have a lot of other things beyond that. But when they combine engineering projects and combine different materials, it'd be much easier to have, say, for example, in a wire, to have electrons flow. There's a current, and then you can improve the resistance if you have proper uniformity overall, so that the wires and electricity can flow, and you could have better outlets and better charging for, so say, your phones and laptops. So it's kind of like that.
Oh, so basically it'll still work without it being totally uniform, but it just makes it so much more efficient, right?
Yeah, so in order to make this more efficient, they use something called laser irradiance. Now, a laser irradiance is basically, imagine like shooting lasers on top of metal and try to make that surface all uniform and nice. And the reason, if you shoot lasers at it, it would kind of get very hot and melty and become weak, but then it becomes strong after a while. But if you make everything uniform, eventually it becomes kind of brittle. But and if you and you use laser irradiance to put more lasers and more focus and more energy blasts on certain areas than others. I think that when using laser irradiance, you also have to understand. Let me just tell you about a little about the definition. It's essentially how much energy you blast in each square area to make it uniform. So if you put too much, then it could become weak and brittle, and then your wire or material can fall apart. But if you put too little, it won't become uniform at all. Some area of the material will be stronger than others, and it'll be just kind of confusing on how it's going to be broken for some people. If you give it to another engineer to use it, it'll easily break, and then they'll be kind of confused, like what's going on. So that's kind of what they use laser irradiance to improve grain refinement throughout and uniformity with isotropy and avoid anti-isotropy, which is just non-uniformity. You
So
kind of
it's all
get that?
about the correct balance too, right?
Yeah, it
So,
is all about the correct balance. That's a very good point. So if I could sum this article that we read, that I'll link down below if anyone wants to read it, it's just laser makes material stronger to a certain degree. Meaning, if you shoot too much energy at it, it'll become brittle and weak. But if you shoot too little, it won't be properly uniform, and you can't use your material for what you want to use it for.
so what could this mean for like the real world? Like how really strong could something get by using this sort of technology and having the correct?
So as I said, the wire example for housing and electricians to use it, but it could also be used like for advanced electronics and advanced projects and engineering builds for, say, for example, if I use a military. As we know, the military has amazing, high, expensive, very, very high level projects for weapons and defense and just things like that. So if, say, for example, we're making a drone for the military and you want those wires in the drone to be properly secure and properly have the proper current flowing through it. Using laser radiance, we can make that stronger. And yeah, that would just overall help overall the cause in the military and even just other causes as well. Say, for example, self-driving cars, having wires and materials to be properly uniform and just stronger overall where you, however you want it to be, can just be helpful.
So is this just for like wires or can it be used for like houses too? Because like sometimes let's say if you live in an area that gets like maybe like a lot of earthquakes or something, maybe using this sort of technology for like houses could make sure that like you have better wall stuff so it won't like get destroyed. Is that can it be used for this too?
For earthquakes, I think that it can be used for, I think it's, now like reading about this, I think it's more about how they wanted precision, not necessarily durability.
Oh,
Well, I
okay.
mean, they do want durability as well, but they want like there's like also a precision when reading this. I saw an implication of that. They wanted something to be very precise when using it. Say, if, I keep going to the wire example, but it's a perfect example. They want current to flow through it properly, and they want it to be very precise, not necessarily on a large scale, so that it could not bring down a house. That's what I'm kind of getting from this as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So. And like going further from this, a blog post that we posted recently about artificial intelligence and material science and engineering is something that this can be used for. So in the blog post, we talked about how uh, we can analyze fractures of materials quickly by using artificial intelligence algorithms so that they can understand, oh, is this material weak for an engineer or is this material strong for an engineer? And this is, it's kind of similar to how they're doing it. If you integrate artificial intelligence with the laser irradiance, you can also put it exactly how much precision you want. You can put it exactly how uniform you want it, how strong you want it, how weak, because if we do it ourselves, there's also a lot of room for human error. I know in the blog post, there was a lot of things that went wrong before having the artificial intelligence. But now because we have it, it's very precise and engineers can get work quick to have work done quicker because of this. So a little bit about like uniformity and lasers.
Yeah. So like the main takeaway would kind of be that in order to get the most precision you can for let's say like wires or AIs, you have to have uniformity and you have to have a certain balance, right?
Yeah, that's, I think that's the main takeaway. I remember, I just, one more sentence. I know I said it before. Lasers make things stronger to a
Yeah.
certain degree. Uh, that's basically what this is about. And if any of you want to read it a little bit more, I read through it. It's very, very interesting article. It talks about a lot of other main concepts, different concepts. This is the main one that it talks about. But if any of you want to talk about it down below, we will link it and say. And if we made mistakes, let us know.
Okay, so next we're going to be going into a new article, something that came out fairly recently on May 28, 2020. So about, let's say, like 15 days ago. It's called New Whirling State of Matter Discovered on the Periodic Table. So what this article mainly discusses is this element on the periodic table called neodymium, and basically its effects on AIs and different things it could be used for. So that a little bit of background. The strongest permanent magnet today, it contains a mix of two elements, this neodymium and iron. But however, neodymium on its own does not behave like any known that we know today. So currently, physicists have shown that neodymium behaves like a so-called self-induced spin glass.
Oh, okay.
And what this basically kind of means is that it's composed of little ripple seas of a tiny whirling magnet circulating at different speeds and constantly evolving over time. So I know that's a lot, but we'll be getting more deeper into that. But basically, physicists are trying to do now is they're just trying to discover the different behaviors of this neodymium and what it can do for AIs and for different things.
So it has like a different like spin. So it's a lot different from the other elements and like kind of like magnets that we have now.
Yeah, so it uses something called spin glass.
Okay.
So going a little bit more into magnets, magnets are defined by a north and south pole. So let's say if you dissect a regular fridge magnet, you find many different spins, and
Mhm.
they're aligned along the same direction and defined by north and south pole.
Okay.
Spin glasses, they derive their name from the evolving structures of the atoms in the pieces of glass. So in this way, spin glasses are kind of like um, um, they're kind of like spin glasses. They're kind of like magnets, except they're more softer metals and
Oh,
glasses kind
okay.
of. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So earlier in the laser irradiance thing, when we talked about how it could make it nice and soft, we talked. Oh, there was like an alloy in the paper that was about aluminum magnesium alloy. So could it be integrated with different alloys of different like compositions, kind of like that, or is it just spinning so that it could be integrated with almost anything, right?
Yeah, almost anything. But
Okay.
what were you saying? Go ahead.
So it just I think it's like what I see from here is that this is kind of like a revolutionary material or kind of element or magnet or to push ourselves to kind of a new bounds. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what it is, or am I overhyping it?
No, yeah, definitely. The main thing is that right now, physicists are only in the beginning development of what we can really do with this neodymium.
Mhm.
So they're specialists, and what they're using is something called scanning tunneling microscopy.
Mhm.
And what this basically does is it shows the structure of individual atoms,
Okay.
and it can resolve the north and south poles of the atoms.
Mhm.
So because of this high precision imaging, it can tell the actual behavior of this neodymium, but the process does take a while, so it's currently in place. But we kind of know basic understanding of what it can do so far.
Oh, okay. So that's really cool. So this type of material or this like type of magnetic spin could be also implemented in. I was kind of reading it and skimming it over. I feel like it could be implemented in artificial intelligence, right? Also, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Can you go a little
So
more into that? Yeah.
yeah, so I think if you can put it in certain objects, and you could put it maybe for example, I don't know if you can do this, but if we can have it have high precision imaging, we were able to be discover neodymium. We could also use that high precision imaging from discovering neodymium to implement it into more high precision imaging to have even smaller changes in like different magnetic structures in different objects, and also more artificial intelligence overall, right? Implementing in new materials. Like I was reading a little like science news before, and Elon Musk had a new object called the Neuralink. So he was working on that with obviously Elon Musk is a very educated man. He knows these types of things, machine learning, artificial intelligence. I feel like if we use neodymium, it'd be better for Neuralink. Let me give a quick background on what Neuralink is. Basically, it's like a chip, kind of. I want to say a chip, properly designed. It could be designed with lasers or radiance. We don't know. So we put it in the skull. It's you take a piece of your skull, you put it in. It's supposed to be completely safe, and then it's wired like kind of like how you properly wire your computer or things like that. It's wired into your brain so that it stimulates certain parts of the brain so that you could receive like new functions. So this could be helped with dementia. This could also be helped with Alzheimer's, and it could even blindness. It could help you see. So if we use this object, this spin, this would actually help Neuralink and just this process in like in what I saw is this could help in theoretical neuroscience. This is like the thing it could help about artificial intelligence with theoretical neuroscience. What do you think?
That what you just said, like it sounds like it could help a lot of people,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's kind of crazy to think about like if someone's putting a chip into your head, even though it could be used for good, like you never know if it gets put into the wrong hands what it could be used for, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. This specific material is very, very strong. Just
Hmm.
reading about it, we just saw the immense power of it. Chaz talked about it. I talked about like the AI implications.
Yeah.
If this is properly introduced in AI, it's kind of scary how this material can have so much influence. Not it does, but it can have so much influence. Say for example, if we put it in and something's in your brain, right? It's not like someone's controlling you. It can help. I feel like for the people it does help, they'll love it. For the people who
Yeah.
doesn't, they'll be very skeptical.
Hmm. And like I talked about earlier how this new element, I mean, it's not a new element, but this element is unprecedented levels of precision.
Mhm.
So it's crazy because no other element does anything like this. So if you
Yeah.
just think about it, we have to take a step back
Mhm.
maybe before we see what we use this for. But overall, I feel like if it's used in the correct way, it could have huge strides on neurological developments.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I was looking it over and it's described as like the whirling magnet with a spin glass, as you said. Do you think any other elements have something like this? And what would it mean if more elements had something like this, like more materials?
Yeah, physicists are probably looking at this like if they found if it's in this element, then maybe they're testing other ones with the scanning tunneling microscopy to see if any other elements act just like the neodymium. And if they could find more elements like this, then maybe they'd have a lot of this spin glass that could overall just help AIs and just advance it even more, right?
Yeah, I think that advancing AI using this, like the obviously the material science and engineering that we have, could just better it overall,
Yeah.
and over the whirling magnets. And I also want to go back to another point that I talked about, but I want to go into kind of like something that they talked about in the article as well. So it says right here that this is paraphrased a little bit. It says, with the advancement of AI and its large energy footprint, because it does take a lot of energy and power, there is an increasing demand to create materials that can perform brain-like tasks directly in hardware. You could never build a brain-inspired computer with simple magnets, but materials with this complex behavior, neodymium specifically, they could be suitable candidates. So I just kind of want to break that down. It's kind of thing that we're talking about. Brain-like behavior.
Mhm.
Could this emulate an actual brain? Could this material emulate an actual brain? And what would this mean for the future? Could we actually, I know this is getting kind of like sci-fi, could we create actual robots with this material, with this technology to uh, emulate an actual human, a brain? And
Yeah.
what would that mean? Would it mean that uh, certain militaries have more power than others? Do going could you actually go inside of the virtual world? It's kind of like what would this mean?
Yeah, it has so many different applications to
Mhm.
it, especially just like in that few lines that you said. I feel like that just sums up the main thing that it can do. And it's just so crazy to think about how, like, just like 10 years ago, we didn't even like have access to like phones like Apple and stuff like that. And just to see that we're going that all the way to like being able to create robots like that actually act like humans. Like we have robots right now, but nothing compared to what neodymium can do. To create a human brain inside of a robot, that just sounds honestly.
Yeah, I think that just sounds just incredible, just
Yeah.
incredible. Uh, so the last thing I want to talk about, one quick thing that I was when I was reading or skimming over this article, and I mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to get even your opinion and maybe someone in the comments down below their opinion about what neodymium could be used for. So it says it can also be used to identify images in artificial intelligence with image recognition. Now I talked about that. What that basically is that if you could say, for example, put this spin-like feature in, so say, for example, cameras or drone cameras or video overall, just like imaging software, then you could actually get precise images. Facial recognition software can be easier. Say, for example, spotting someone on the road, if a criminal or even just someone that you need to get in contact with could be much easier. This could even be used for like so far as machine learning for if you open an iPhone X or higher, I believe, it's facial recognition, right? It's something
Yeah.
like kind of like that. You could use facial recognition for something like that because it learns your face and then it takes it in, takes that information in, takes bytes of that information and can use that spin gas feature for this brain-like feature that we discussed. It's fairly primitive to what we discussed and talked about today, but it is a step in the right direction. Using the materials of neodymium, we could actually make something incredible. Like,
Isn't that kind of what you were talking about last episode? How it evolves, like kind of like with your handwriting.
yeah, exactly. So, like, kind of like with the Surface Book example I talked about. Shaz is completely right. So, if anyone doesn't know what the example that Shaz brought up, it's from last episode. Is when I have a Surface Book 2. So, when writing on the Surface Book 2, I use a pen. And when the first time I went to the Microsoft store to get it, when I was using a pen to write with it, um, I it didn't recognize my handwriting. I couldn't convert it into text using the convert to text feature. But as time went on, I was able to keep on writing and writing, and it got better and better because it was learning and learning. So there's little machine learning in there, and some implications with neodymium can be used. I don't know how it can, maybe something with obviously machine learning, but I think that'd just be incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of like that example, except neodymium just puts it into a much larger scale, kind of, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. So wow, that does just incredible. So that was this kind of the wrap up of the second episode of STEM Talk with STEM Encounters. So the little concepts that we went over today and new ideas. First of all, refinement theory and isotropy, which is uniformity in materials using laser irradiance, which is just energy blasted on per square area of materials. Hopefully you got and understood what that meant. If you don't, you can look this podcast over or even read the article. It's a publication. It's a very, very interesting publication.
And the other article we went over talked about
Yeah,
neodymium and its
exactly.
applications and how it can offer even more precise imaging and precise AIs for robots and other things that it can be used for.
Yeah, even like Neuralink that we talked about.
Yeah, Neuralink. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was all very exciting what we talked about. And if you want to learn more and like visit our next episode will be very exciting. So if you want to tune in for that, as all our episodes are very exciting, you can find us at STEMencounters.com. That's our website. Our Instagram, STEM_encounters. Any other place that you want to shout out, Shaz?
Again, like everywhere, it's STEM encounters.
Yeah.
Yeah, our Instagram is STEM encounters, but other than that, our email STEM encounters,
Yeah.
everything else STEM encounters, and we have so much stuff that's going on right now. We're developing online courses.
Yeah.
We're having blog posts, Instagram posts, all this stuff. So we're gonna be a lot of stuff and stay tuned because
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We even have new initiatives soon. So I just want to quickly mention that we will be monetizing this podcast just because for one reason specific, we want to broadcast them to you guys. So this podcast, none of the proceeds in the monetization in Spotify or YouTube where this podcast is up will go towards us. It will all go back into STEM Encounters for the new initiatives that we're doing. We have a lot of initiatives coming up, and we will inform you that as they happen. But this will be monetized, and not because we make money out of this. We don't want to make money. Our main goal is to inspire STEM within all of you guys and material science and engineering.
And
So a
we're
quick thing, you can find this on our YouTube channel as well, STEM Encounters. Shaz, anything you want to add?
Yeah, and so we're also accepting donations on our website as well that will go
Yeah.
back into STEM. We're
Mhm.
501c3 certified, so we're allowed to accept donations.
Yeah.
So if you want to just overall donating to us will help us spread STEM to more people, and that's just our main goal of what we're trying to do with STEM Encounters and our podcast as well.
Yeah. So we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Goodbye.